Alright, Graphics 1, this is Mr. Ferranto, and this is a tutorial on how to make a computer icon much like you see on an iPod or an iPad. Alright, and what you're going to do first is make a new document in Adobe Illustrator, and I just want you to put your last name and icon.ai as the name. I want you to make sure this is a letter document. Inches is checked as your unit. And it doesn't matter if your orientation is vertical or horizontal. Alright, and we're going to do this today with your basic shape tools, which we've already learned, your direct selection tool, which you've already learned, your gradient tool, which we've already learned, but some of you may have forgotten, so this is a good reminder, eyedropper tool. Alright, you can use your zoom tool, and we're going to use your fill colors, your swap button, and your none button. Now before you get started, I want you to go to Window, and I want you to check the following windows: color, gradient, layers, and swatches. Control and tools should always be checked. Now if your window looks like this, here's what I want you to do. This is your swatches. I want you to pull it out like that. Here's your gradient. I want you to pull it out like that. Here's your layers. Pull it out. And this is your color. Pull that one out. Alright? So those are the four windows I want open for this little project. Alright, so here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the icon itself with the rounded rectangle tool. So you're going to click and hold, pick rounded rectangle, click once on your screen, and we're going to set this up as a 4-inch by 4-inch rounded rectangle with a corner radius of 0.5 inches, and press OK. Now our default should be a white rounded rectangle with a black stroke. So over here in my toolbar, what I want you to do is I want you to click on this outline stroke, bring it to the front like that, and then hit the none button, so our shape now has no stroke. Alright, so all it has is a white shape. Now over here, we're going to pick a gradient as the shape color. And you're going to pick this orange one right here. You're not going to pick the other ones. You're going to pick this one. Alright, there's no preference in this. I'm telling you that's what you need to do. Now, down here in our gradient window, if your window looks like this, always show options. I want you to change the type from radial to linear. And you're going to click right here, add a third color. And you're going to change the location percentage to 50 to make sure it's directly in the middle. Now, what I want you to do is pick a color. In this case, I'm going to go with a light blue and a dark blue. Remember, we talked about color value, lights and darks. So whatever color you pick, you have to pick a same color, but different shades and tints. So I'm going to go with blue. I'm going to take my light blue and drag it right to the middle. Now that's new. I didn't show you this before. This is another way to change the color of a gradient. You have your swatches palette open, and you click and drag directly onto the little square. So now if I zoom out, you can see my gradient has a light blue in the middle and dark blues on the outside. Now the next thing I want you to do is in your gradient window where it says angle, I want you to type a 45. And what that does is changes the angle of the blue beam to a 45-degree angle. Alright, so that's step one. Step two is we need to copy the layer. Now, this is something new, so I'm going to show you this. I'm going to zoom in real tight. Here's our layer one in our layer box. To copy that, we're going to click and drag straight down on top of this button here. This button is your new layer button. But if you drag a layer on top of it and let go when you see the plus sign, it copies the layer. And this right here tells you that's your copy. So after you copy layer one, you're going to lock layer one. Click on layer one copy to activate it. And what we're going to do is we're going to click and drag on one of the corners, but I want you to hold Option and Shift at the same time, and then click and drag till you have a little bit of an edge around the current selection. Let go of your mouse first. Alright, and then back in your gradient window where it says angle 45, I want you to put a minus sign in front of that, so it's a negative 45-degree angle. And what that does, if you notice, it changes the direction of the blue beam, and when that's staggered on top of layer 1, you now have this cool little edge that makes this look like a three-dimensional button, or an app for that matter. Now we're going to lock that layer, alright, and we're going to make a new layer, and we do that by clicking on that button. So you do that, and now the icon that we're going to make is similar to this icon here. See how it's a signal? Usually means radio or wireless signal. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to take our ellipse tool, and I'm going to draw a circle by holding down Shift, and back in my toolbar I'm going to hit this default button to make it white and black, and then I'm going to put a none through the white so I just have a black outline circle. And I want to change my stroke up here where it says 1 point. I'm going to highlight this area and change it to 25 points. I want a nice thick circle. Then I'm going to take my direct selection tool, click on this point right here, press delete. Notice how half the circle gets deleted. Now I'm going to click on the point at the bottom of the circle, the half circle, press delete again, and that leaves me with a semi-arc. I'm going to take my selection tool and move it where I want it. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to change this color stroke to white because I have a blue background and black does not always work well on a blue background. So white will stand out better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to shrink it holding my Shift button so it stays proportioned. And what I want to do, if I move in so you can see better, I want to try and position this line so it's even with that line. So if I have to, I just nudge it. Alright, now if you notice, this line is no longer the same thickness as this line. So back up here in your stroke box, up here, you're going to change it back to 25. So now they're both the same size, thickness. So I'm going to move this a little bit. I'm going to try and line these two corners up with my light blue line here. And then I'm going to take my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw a circle about this big. And I'm going to use my switch arrow here, or swap arrow, to put color in the foreground and no stroke. And then what I'm going to do is line this up right about there. Again, trying to get these two corners of the bounding box on the same line with that light blue. It's all by eye, so do the best you can. Alright, there you go. So there's our little icon app. Now, we're going to do a couple new things here to stylize it. So what I'm going to do is with my marquee, my direct selection tool, I'm going to draw this little box around everything so it's selected. And there's a new heading I want to show you today called Effect. And you go under Effect, and you're going to come to Stylize, and over here you're going to pick, Outer Glow. Now, what the Outer Glow does, if I hit Preview, and I'm going to change Screen to Normal, and you're going to notice there's a slight hint of a shadow now around my icon. And I'm going to hit OK. So there you go. You just see a nice little shadow around my radio bars. Now over my layers, I'm going to unlock layer 1. And I'm going to click on it to activate it and go back up to Effect. Go to Stylize, and this time we're going to choose Drop Shadow. And what the drop shadow does is pretty neat. If I hit preview, you'll see it adds a big shadow underneath my shape. So when I deselect, now it looks like there's a shadow underneath my entire icon, and it's above the paper, so it almost looks three-dimensional. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how they make those apps. So now what I want you to try, unlock layer 1 copy layer, so everything is unlocked. Draw a box around everything, move it over, and I want you to use your option, click and drag, to copy it. And now what I want you to do is I want you to try and change colors. So now all you need to do, since you copied it, is pick a different color scheme. So let's say I want to try a reddish gradient. So I'm going to take pink, because that's a tint of red, and I'm going to take a dark red, which is a shadow of red, or a shade. I'm going to zoom out. Alright, so there's my first layer. Then I'm going to lock that layer, click on the background copy, hit my eyedrop tool, eyedrop it, and now I have a different color gradient. So I'm going to lock both of those under layers, then I'm going to select these, delete them, and I'm going to go ahead and make my own icon. Now you can take your type tool if you want and make your initial, whether it's your first initial or your last initial. So I'll just say F for my last name. I can stretch that out. I can put it in here like that. I can change the font if I like, so that's a slightly standard font. Go with something like that. I'll change it so it stands out better. There you go. I can add a outer glow under stylize. This blur option makes the blur get bigger or smaller. So you can see what happens when I do that. So I want to keep it right around 0.1 inches. And then just hit OK. Alright, and there you go. You can also make another icon using the shape tools if you wanted to make like a little Android face, because I know Android apps do the same thing as iPhone apps. So you can make an Android face if you know what the Android face looks like. Because that's basically just basic shapes, right? Circles, half circles. Alright, so there you go. That's your tutorial for what you're going to do when you finish your project, if you need something to do, which some of you might this week. Alright.